Dear students, let us start discussion on 24th March 2016 newspaper. And by the way, happy Holi for you all. The first article is related to the Jammu and Kashmir and how the existing system or pattern of working and dissidence etc. have evolved is historically delineated in this article. So we have divided this article into 5 phases. The first one is establishment of a representative governance. Glancy Commission, based on its report, Praja Sabha was established in Kashmir in 1934. So this Praja Sabha is the modern day legislative assembly. But most of this Praja Sabha is represented with Dogra officials. But slowly, more and more seats are being given to the people and their representatives. So in those days, the Muslim conference was the representative of the a particular section of the people. It was Sheikh Abdullah's party. Later, the second phase is called Kashmiriyat phase, where recognition of the composite culture and collective identity of the Kashmir. So in this phase, the Muslim conference of Sheikh Abdullah transformed itself into national conference, and Dogra king, he was dethroned. So here the Kashmiriyat phase, it has recognition of the collective value and identity of the society. And after that post-independent phase, so democracy was slowly established in Kashmir, and the elections with the wider base of universal adult franchise initiated. Now these elections became a base or else a medium for political communication. Now, whenever people wanted to show their disaffection towards the politics of Delhi, the boycotting of the elections became the communication of this displeasure. After this, the divisive phase. So one way there is a failure of the New Delhi. It failed to give security and assurance to the Kashmiris. So in 1965, the National Conference was merged in Indian National Congress. And 1987 elections, so there was a wide range rigging, and finally National Congress and National Conference and Indian National Congress together have come into the power. So by these situations, the Kashmiri alienation from the mainland has increased, and the worsening of Indo-Pakistan relations also laid the seed for militancy. Now the next comes the adjustment phase. Especially this is from the UPA 1 era and before that Vajpayee era. It is majorly a peace process between India and Pakistan, and taking the Kashmiris into cognizance initiation of various developmental programs, and most important of that is the Insaniyat program of the Vajpayee era. So in this case, Kashmiris recognized that they also need a stable governance to solve their day-to-day problems. So their participation in the elections slowly started increasing. From 2002 onwards, there is a remarkable increase in the participation. Now, with regard to the latest elections, almost 60+% is the participation of the people in the elections. That shows the mainstreaming of the Kashmiri people towards India. So in this context, with the existing government's failure in providing for the flood relief, and also the alienation or else the PDP-BJP politics, all these are again giving a surface to the militancy. So these are the various phases on the historical line of the Kashmir. So in this, remember the 1987 rigging, where the center wanted to impose its favorite rule in the states. And the next is the governor's rule, which is between 1965 to almost for a decade and a half. All these are the problems which have led to the Kashmiri issue. And next is, what is a state and a nation? So a state is a geographical entity and is a political association based on some legal laws. On the other hand, nation is a cultural construct. So it means that a state may consist of multiple nations, and a nation can exist beyond the state boundaries. So in this way, what is Mussolini's fascism? He wanted to dominate the state, or state is dominating over the nation and also over the individual. and it rejects the democracy and equality and gives primacy to religion. And state is the repository of all value and consciousness of the country. So this is what is Mussolini's fascism is. Now, Sampath's article talks about how the nationalism dialogue is going on in India. So in this context, I don't want to talk about that nationalism dialogue, because what is fascism and what is the difference between nation and state? If you know that, that is more than sufficient. But however, I can say this way. The nationalism or nation and the state debate shall be deconstructed from each other. Against the state, the citizen was given a right to criticize. And against the nation, so there is a collective opinion. An anti-national can be punished, but not the anti-state. And you cannot make something anti-state as anti-national to punish the individuals. The line between anti-state and anti-national is different. Now, what is the other viewpoint over here? RSS and all these people, what they say is India is a nation which was divided into different states in ancient days. But the modern construct is India is a state with different nationhoods in it. This is the different kinds of interpretations of right and left politics in India. Coming to the BRICS, is it relevant in today's politics? Now he says that the global politics, these are dependent on the three major experiments. One is Washington Consensus, European Union, the rise of China. Washington Consensus led to the NATO, that is World Bank and IMF. Finally, it has created a globalized and liberalized world. And European Union is based on collective values of pluralism, human rights, etc. And China is in a belief that the first factor is against and the rule framework is not right across the world. And also its ambition to grow as a superpower in Asia Pacific. So in this context, what is the BRICS? BRICS consists of different countries with different political ideology. If you take China, state capitalism. So in this way, and also they don't appear to have common economic goals. Then how India shall use this as a platform? Now, India's strategic interest lies in open borders, open economic borders, and expansion of its trade. So, India shall protect a liberal internationalism that serves its interests best using the BRICS as a platform. And I contradict with this particular opinion, but however, the BRICS helps India to create new institutions of global governance where it can play a major important role. For example, New Development Bank, and next is, there is also BRICS Bank, that is. And next one is, we are talking about Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. So after this, BRICS shall be seen as a grand startup from the grand perspective. As of now, India is following the international norms. So it wants to make a norm shaper. It has to create the international norms which are an advantage of it. So it means it shall gain the bargaining strength for that. And BRICS helps as a bargaining strength to India, as the Shanghai Cooperation Organization helped the China as a bargaining tool. So BRICS also can help the India the same way. But however, on the negative side, on the BRICS is economically dominated by China. And next is, all these countries, they do not have a common economic agenda or common climate agenda too even now. So in this context, so these are different countries falling apart. So the new institutions such as a New Development Bank and AIIB has to bring them together. Coming to the e-waste policy, our new rules are framed for the e-waste. According to that, the manufacturers and retailers are made responsible for the recycling of waste. So every manufacturer has to ensure the recollection of 30% of the e-waste of the projected sales by 2017 and 70% by 2018. Sorry, 30% by 2018, 70% by 2023. And added to that, the states are supposed to establish the recycling units in industrial parks. So in that way, the states were also given new responsibilities. And then the new products are also been added as part of the e-waste, that is the CFL lamps, because they contain the mercury. And Saudi Arabia is losing the sheen for foreign workers. You know that the fall in commodity prices, especially oil prices, has dwindled the revenues of the Saudi government. So Saudi government is no more in a way to spend the welfare of the people, and the fiscal deficit is increasing. Previously, many of the menial jobs, these are being done by the expatriates, and almost 1/3 of the population living in Saudi Arabia, around 10.1 million out of the 30.8 million, are the expats. So now, many of the sectors are being closed for the expatriates and open up for the Saudi nationals. It is to tide over the growing unemployment in Saudi Arabia. How it can affect India? Obviously, Indian remittances are going to come down, and most of the Indian remittances comes from this particular area. And the next is, coming to Indian Express, you have Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana. Now, what the author argues over here. So, there are three components. The accelerated irrigation benefit scheme, it has got a huge 80,000 plus crore support from the budget. And then, more crop for less drop, that is about drip irrigation. And the third thing is Har Khet Ko Pani. So water to every field. This is what is the third thing. So now, when you compare these three things, Har Khet Ko Pani, drip irrigation, accelerated irrigation benefits program, Har Khet Ko Pani is based on development of involvement of local governments or rejuvenation of groundwater, etc. Now let's compare two models over here in this graph. One is Madhya Pradesh and Gujarat model, and the next one is Maharashtra and Andhra Pradesh model. So Maharashtra and Andhra Pradesh, there was heavy spending on irrigation, but it did not create an irrigation potential. On the other hand, Madhya Pradesh and Gujarat, irrigation governance they focused on, and that has led to the increase in irrigation potential. So in this case, what the author argued is, we have to shift from the irrigation development or development of water resources to farm water control, that is irrigation governance. So in India, the major problem is huge irrigation potential is created, but it is not utilized. So it is because of non-building of the canal system, the silting of the canals, etc. What the Madhya Pradesh did, it has created special funds to remove this silting. Even Telangana government under Kakatiya, Mission Kakatiya, it is removing the silting in the tanks. So this can reduce the gap between the created potential and utilized potential. Next is the groundwater, especially in Ganga belt. In the groundwater recharge plan has to be created. And then Har Khet Ko Pani, which is a local body's involvement program, it has to be given a due emphasis rather than to the accelerated irrigation benefits program, which is leading to the huge leakage of the funds. Coming to this article, there are many international examples with regard to disaster management. So now, India has got National Disaster Management Authority established in 2006. World Bank also proposed for Global Facility for Disaster Reduction and Recovery. So these are the two things. So in this context, if we want to reduce the disaster, first is disaster resistant buildings need to be made, especially with regard to earthquake. Now if you see in Madagascar, now all the builders and also authorities who are approving the buildings, they are made responsible to follow the building code and the safety of the building. If you talk Istanbul, in Istanbul, most of the buildings are retrofitted to make them earthquake resistant. And then swift response teams, we can say the locally trained people, making the society more consciousness. These are very critical in fighting about the disaster. So the Gujarat school children are being given special training on the earthquake and also with regard to tsunami and other natural disasters. Increasing the resilience of critical infrastructure. What does this mean? Whenever a disaster comes up, the response teams have to be active. If you remember Chennai, almost all the vehicles of the municipal bodies, they are being non-workable. So in this case, hospitals, civic bodies, community halls, power infrastructure, all these need to be built keeping the disaster management in mind. And with regard to the urban flooding, the major reason is improper management of the sewage system. And most of the cases, this sewage has been blocked by the waste which has been dumped over there. So in this context, proper sewage management is critical. So in this, the Seoul in South Korea, which is prone for frequent flooding, it has built in the storm water drains. The similar things can help in India too. So these are the articles for today. Thank you very much and happy Holi again. All the best.